moderator, so I'm going to sit down and you two can take it from here.
Thank you. All right, Danny, so you have the floor.
All right, so what's the first topic we're talking about? Chemtrails?
You have five to 7 minutes to make your opening statement.
I'm not going to take that long. So, but we're just doing the first topic of chemtrails.
Well, we'll get to chemtrails after our opening statements.
Okay, so I don't have a prepared script, but I have the truth on my side. So first, before we do this, I want to get an idea. How many people are conspiracy theorists and how many are skeptics? So conspiracy theorists, raise your hand. Wow, you really stacked this audience, huh? Wow, there's only that many conspiracy theorists. All right.
How many people think that was an inside job?
Define the term.
All of them.
Austin, why don't you define the term?
I will in my statement. Are you finished with your opening remarks?
No, so my opening remarks are this. If you believe the official story, any official story that the government's going to give you, whether the motivation is criminal conspiracy or criminal negligence, regardless, the official story always has to be looked at. So that's my basic premise. I think that there are some straw man arguments, and maybe we should give you a little history of how this started. Me and Austin were having some debates on Facebook, and somebody suggested that we should move the debate here in person. So I think that Austin uses some straw man arguments that are intentionally thrown out there to kind of marginalize these issues so that nobody will discuss them. Because if you discuss them, you must be a crazy, right? Or a retard. So, and listen, there are a fair amount in the population of conspiracy theorists. There are a fair amount of people that are, how do I say this sensitively? You know, maybe a little bit
Paranoid schizophrenic?
They might be paranoid schizophrenics, they might be a little retarded, but that does not take away from the truth about what actually happened or what happens with vaccines or chemtrails or 9/11. So, I don't, that's it for me. I mean,
Okay, my turn? Okay. So what is a conspiracy, and what is a conspiracy theory? Although seemingly similar, they are in actuality quite different. A legal definition of a conspiracy is an agreement between two or more persons to break the law at some time in the future. There is no limit on the number of people participating in the conspiracy, and in most countries, no requirements that any steps have been taken to put the plan into effect. The term conspiracy theory is used to indicate a narrative genre that includes a broad selection of not necessarily related arguments for the existence of grand conspiracies. The term is frequently used to identify secret military, banking, or political actions aimed at stealing power, money, or freedom from the people. Conspiracy theories are based on the notion that complex plots are put into motion by powerful hidden forces. No doubt, conspiracies exist. In fact, today I intend on revealing a heretofore unknown conspiracy involving the KGB connection to the JFK assassination. But, caveat emptor, buyer beware, it may not be the type of conspiracy you think. The attacks on 9/11 were, by technical definition, a conspiracy. But the matter of contention is whether it was 13 Saudis and Yemenis guided by Osama bin Laden, or whether it was some insidious plot by George Bush to take our nation to war. One is a conspiracy. The other is a conspiracy theory. Today, my debate partner and I will engage in a discussion of three major conspiracy theories. They are that the theories of that the attacks of September 11th were an inside job, that vaccines are dangerous and linked to autism, and that the government is engaged in a vast conspiracy to spray our skies with dangerous chemicals on a daily basis. My debate partner will use logical fallacies to prove his point. He will engage in confirmation bias. Which refers to a type of selective thinking whereby one tends to notice and look for what confirms one's beliefs and to ignore and not look for or undervalue the relevance of what contradicts one's beliefs. My partner will point at holes in official theories and claim they are evidence of a conspiracy. And claim they're evidence, but that is not how a rational mind arrives at conclusions. Although Mr. Panzella has openly admitted, not 3 days ago, on LibertyChat.com, that he cannot prove any of his theories, specifically that 9/11 was an inside job, his questioning of the official theory, he will say, is enough. But ladies and gentlemen, governments always lie. They always cover up. And when I was a reporter at Fox, I investigated these holes, and I was surprised that after careful investigation, that so many of popular conspiracy theories turned out to be blatantly false. There are no FEMA camps, and the only reason that people think there were is because after Hurricane Katrina, a legislator sought to ease the suffering of future hurricane survivors by providing adequate shelter. However, the bill didn't pass, and the camps were never funded. There was merely an attempt of a do-gooder politician trying to alleviate the suffering of the displaced victims of Hurricane Katrina. And after seeing the suffering and devastation of the victims of the stadium in New Orleans, can you blame him? But I did, however, find what I think is a real conspiracy surrounding 9/11, and that the 9/11 Commission report was indeed, as Michael Scheuer claimed on my show Freedom Watch, whitewash from top to bottom. However, it was not some maniacal plot by the Bush administration. To believe that 9/11 is an inside job is to believe that George Bush is smart, and that ain't smart. For more 9/11 on my for more on my 9/11 research, this is my time, please. YouTube. No, that's 7. YouTube, guys. If you really want to know, the YouTube, Able Danger, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer, and Operation Dark Heart. Friends, it appears sadly that the government failed to protect us on 9/11 because that's what they do. They fail, and the conspiracy was in the cover-up. And I also believe that these crackpot conspiracy theories that claim the attack was a false flag do harm to the cause of justice by allowing our incompetent leadership to deflect blame by labeling real truth seekers as lunatics. And 9/11 truthers have twisted the word in such a way as to destroy its meaning. And now because of it, our ideological enemies, the statists, can paint us all with a broad brush and destroy any opportunity for true justice. And in doing so, expand government power. After all, why should Americans trust a libertarian movement with governance when it is so easy for the government to show how the liberty movement is densely populated with paranoia and irrationality? It's similar to how the left delegitimized the Tea Party by focusing on the unsavory elements while ignoring their very legitimate complaints of the dangers of big government. Some conspiracy theories, such as the reptilian conspiracy, are harmless, but some, such as the irrational fears of vaccines, are not. Some theories involve claims such as the idea that an evil conspiracy of Jewish bankers attempt to manipulate money and credit to their own benefit. It is my belief that engaging in this type of backwards thinking can lead not only to madness, but to murder. For if you feed poison into a brain on the brink, you bear some moral responsibility for the violent actions taken by the sick and the deranged. And how will you respond when some madman commits a crime thinking he's saving the world from an evil conspiracy of international Jewry? Or when a polio or measles outbreak occurs and kills children? And sure, some of you may say that we don't condone racism or we don't condone anti-Semitism, but there are plenty who are openly racist, and we must guard ourselves against and repudiate these anti-libertarian philosophies of darkness that would overcome us and divert us from the task of advancing our common principles of liberty. I argue that these principles are grounded in reason, logic, and respect for science, evolution, and an understanding of scientific spontaneous order. Austrian economist Steve Horwitz notes, ultimately believing a small group of evil people are manipulating economic and social processes for their own ends, concedes that controlling and manipulating the economy is in fact possible. In other words, conspiracy theories are a form of socialism. If international bankers, it's true. If international bankers really are using the Fed to manipulate the economy to enrich themselves, or if politicians and bureaucrats are using the welfare system to undermine the family or impoverish African Americans, then using government to achieve fairly specific ends is apparently possible. So if they can manipulate the economy in ways that's for bad, why not for good? If you believe if they have the power to do great evil, why couldn't we trust them when they say they can implement social justice or redistribute my wealth effectively? This is my last paragraph. Yes, my friends, if you accept conspiracies for evil, you must then accept them for good. And if you accept that, then perhaps the neoconservative philosophy that it's okay to lie to the masses because they're too stupid to accept the truth just might be true. So let's have the debate, but beware, I will spare no one's sacred cows. Bring the fatted calf that I can kill it.
That was quite an opening. Okay, so we have a couple of problems. First of all, we have to be out of this tent at 12:30. It's actually booked for something else. So as Danny rebuts, I'm going to I'll run upstairs and see if the LRN room's open. AltExpo is supposed to be doing something, but maybe we can negotiate some time with them. I wanted to make one point. If it's a theory, it doesn't have to be proven, right? So the whole
theory of evolution, or the theory of germ theory of disease.
But I'll let Danny take it. I'll be back in a couple of minutes, and apologies. I should have known there was a reason why the tent wasn't in use.
It's always a conspiracy.
It's the Bilderberg.
It's always a conspiracy, right? It's just a matter of who the conspirators are. So what do you want to talk about first?
Chemtrails.
Chemtrails. Okay. So, the evidence for chemtrails, I've never flown up into the sky, taken a sample of a contrail, alleged contrail, and tested it. But what has been tested, geoengineering, the geoengineering community is at a consensus. And they think that spraying aluminum oxide and barium in the atmosphere will mitigate the effects of global warming. They have come to that consensus already in the geoengineering industry. It is true. If you go to geoengineering conferences, they talk about this. John Holdren and Paul Ehrlich, who have controlled White House science policy for the past 30 years, both have said that chemtrailing is what conspiracy theorists call chemtrailing. I guess we should define that. It is the spraying of aluminum oxide and barium into the atmosphere, which is going to reflect back the sun's harmful rays and mitigate the effects of global warming. Okay, so both the White House science czars for the past 30 years agree that this is a great idea and that we should be doing it. All over the world, actually Germany, chemtrails right out in the open. They don't make any apologies about it. I think in the U.S., there seems to be a moral question amongst the geoengineering community whether or not it works, whether there is a moral issue spraying populations either with or without their knowledge and or permission. All over the globe, the soils are being tested, and there are exponential increases in barium and aluminum. So, is that a coincidence? Would you call that a coincidence that all over the planet we have increased, and it's exponential, it's not just a slight elevation, it's such that geologists are saying this can't be natural. At the same time, you've got the Washington, D.C. Scientific elite saying this is what they want to do.
Okay, well, Danny has stated a few facts talking about the Germans and how they openly admit that they're chemtrailing our skies. But I will define for you right now exactly what they are spraying out of the back of the airplanes, and what that is water vapor. It's called a contrail, and what a contrail is a streamer of cloud, sometimes observed behind an airplane flying in clear, cold, humid air. It forms upon condensation of the water vapor produced by the combustion of fuel in the airplane engines. When the ambient relative humidity is high, the resulting ice crystal plume may last for several hours. The trail may be distorted by the winds, and sometimes it spreads outwards to form a layer of cirrus cloud. Spreading contrails have been mentioned consistently throughout the history of aviation, including in the popular press, like Sports Illustrated on November 6, 1989. Which said that now late in the afternoon, the hatchery explored fishing over the day, and blue all day is now turned hazy. Contrails, he says. The haze is caused by aircraft contrails that have gotten spread out till they cover the sky. This is a major air route from the east coast to the west. And from the Frederick, Maryland News, in 1944, March 7th, contrails cited. Contrails frequently have a tendency to cause a complete overcast and cause rain. Chemtrails. In Idaho, I have seen contrails formed in a perfectly clear sky, and 4 hours later, a complete overcast rule. Now he points to a study, or he points to a situation in Germany. He says the Germans admit that they're spraying the sky. But he would have been more accurate to say that a German claimed that they were spraying chemicals in the sky. And yes, indeed, there was a German who claimed that they were spraying chemicals in the sky. That was a German meteorologist. And I don't speak German fully, but I did take musical theater and I sang in German, and I do know and understand a bit of German. And unfortunately, the claim that they're making in German, this German meteorologist who was very annoyed, his name was Carsten Brand, and he was concerned that the military was using too much chaff. Which, if you know what chaff is, it's what they drop out of helicopters and airplanes to divert from a missile.
Aluminum chaff.
That's right, and the military admitted that they do use chaff, but not too much, and it's not harmful.
That's not a
Grant, the meteorologist, contended that they use so much that it could affect the weather, and it might be harmful to people. But he's also really just actually annoyed because it interferes with his wet weather radar. And the German sentence, which appears on the screen if you Google this video, is Die Aussagen belegen, dass bereits seit Jahrhunderten von Hubbel auf der Brettwellen. Now the English sentence that's blended out, which is trying to translate it to prove a conspiracy, the English says that says the registers report emissions of chemtrails at low altitudes. But the actual translation of the German is actually, the reports show that very small quantities of chaff were used. The floor is yours.
So they are spraying aluminum chaff from planes. Isn't that not a chemtrail?
They are using it in military exercises. I think maybe I'm a military expert in here, Adam. Does the military spray chaff in training exercises? Do you know what the chaff is made out of? How often do they conduct these kinds of exercises? And does the military routinely drop chaff over American skies?
I was in the artillery. What effect does it have on the public?
Okay, so since we're running out of time, we might as well move on. I've made my rebuttal. Let's move on to the next topic. Why don't we get to 9/11?
Hold on.
We're going to be here all day, ladies and gentlemen. I've made my rebuttal. We can have time for questions after. Why don't we move on to 9/11?
Okay, boss.
What's your positive assertion that I made rebuttal?
Okay, so 9/11. You have one day with so many coincidences surrounding it, right? I mean, we could be here for hours talking about all the coincidences. For me, one of the most telling is General Eberhard. According to the FOIA requested documents, General Eberhard, who was in command of both Spacecom, which controls satellites, and Northcom, which had air assets in the air running drills. General Eberhard was running 20 drills himself the morning of 9/11. There were over 200 drills being run by all the branches of the military that morning. All on record, proven with the FOIA requested documents. Okay, so General Eberhard testifies to the 9/11 Commission that at 9:03 he knew it was a coordinated attack. In his logs, he did not cancel his drills or take any kind of action until 9:48, a full 45 minutes later. He was never questioned by the 9/11 Commission why he did nothing. So it's very difficult for me to believe that it was incompetence, that a 4-star general who probably trained his whole life for that 45 minutes.
So you're admitting the government is competent and can carry out advanced, that the bureaucracy is efficient and that he should have acted.
No, it doesn't. You don't need a bureaucracy.
So you're a socialist. You believe that the government can apply. You believe that the government can achieve evil ends. You believe that central planning is possible.
Yes.
Oh. So then this is a libertarian versus socialist debate.
It may be libertarian versus collectivist, sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Shermer, who is a very skeptical...
I went on one point.
Okay, go ahead.
So General Eberhard sat on his hands for 45 minutes. Now, you can believe that that's just incompetence.
Yeah, I do think the government is incompetent, ladies and gentlemen.
So General Eberhard did not...
9/11 was a failure on multiple levels. It was a total failure of our intelligence bureaucracies, and it accounts for the most despicable tragedy that's ever occurred. And the belief in the 9/11 conspiracy theories undermines any chance that we might have had of justice, because we're not pointing fingers at the real culprits, the people who failed.
Just because of the disinfo campaigns that are put out there to discredit the issue. Look,
Go ahead.
the same morning of 9/11, the NRO was running a drill, Operation, what was it called? Tapestry Gold Zeebeck was the name of the drill, and that drill involved a plane crashing into the NRO building, which is a short way away from the Pentagon. So, also, just to put it into context...
It would make sense to run those drills, considering that the Israelis gave us a warning 7 months before that we might be attacked, and we might be attacked in such a manner, and that was placed on Condoleezza Rice, our Secretary of State's desk, and they failed to act, they failed to save us.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so those generals did fail that day. They should have known. They did have that intelligence.
So the question is, well, for context, the 7/7 bomb, it also came out, they were running drills, the same subway stations that got bombed. So the question is, I lost my train of thought. Wait. No.
Okay, so my rebuttal. Michael Shermer, who is a very sincere libertarian, wrote in the Scientific American that he said that the mistaken belief that a handful of unexplained anomalies can undermine a well-established theory lies at the heart of all conspiratorial thinking. All the evidence for a 9/11 conspiracy falls under this rubric of fallacy. Such notions are easily refuted by noting that scientific theories are not built on single facts alone, but on a convergence of evidence assembled from multiple lines of inquiry. Many of the documents that were revealed from the 9/11 Commission report show that the White House received a truly remarkable amount of warnings that Al-Qaeda was trying to attack the United States. From June to September of 2011, a full 7 CIA senior intelligence briefs detailed that attacks were imminent, and an incredible amount of information was shown that we were going to get bombed. There was one from June called Bin Laden and Associates Making Near-Term Threats, and they write that we expect that Osama bin Laden is planning to launch multiple attacks over the coming days. And this famous August brief, which was called Bin Laden Determined to Strike in the U.S., was ignored.
Okay, so what is the statistical probability? Are there any statisticians in the house? What's the statistical probability that Al-Qaeda would have planned an attack the same morning that the U.S. military was doing drills of those actual attacks?
What is the statistical probability that Al-Qaeda was planning an attack to put 2 planes into buildings and then somehow they simultaneously wired up a 3rd building to explode? Do you realize how many thousands of people it would take to do that? Was the demolition that was put in WTC union or non-union? Because let me tell you something. If there were a union job in New York, they would have been protesting outside the building 7.
That's a good question.
For the wiring of the trade center.
That's a great question. That needs to be answered.
So was it a
what I do
non-union
know
job?
is that there was explosives found in the rubble. So was the explosives on the plane? Did Bin Laden pack his buddies full of explosives? Or were they pre-wired? I don't know. But that's a good question, and that should have been investigated, but it wasn't. Why?
That's absolutely. Well, you know what? I don't know. But you don't get to make a positive assertion and then say, "I'm just asking questions."
But you get to quote Scientific American and pretend it's true.
So we're moving on to vaccines.
Hold on, I just want to let you know we are going to stay here. Thank you. But anyone who is here for the children's activities will now be up in the bingo hall or in the children's zone. And if you're a volunteer for that, if you could go up that way, that would be great. And I think we are on to the vaccines.
Vaccines and
It's just flying through this. So one of the issues that we had discussed was the work of Dr. Wakefield. So the common soundbite that you hear is vaccines cause autism. Except that was not the premise of Dr. Wakefield's work. The premise of Dr. Wakefield's work was that they had these children who had gut problems was then leading to autism. It was causing autoimmune deficiencies that in some children, and his theory was that it's based also on genetics and diet and eating processed foods and all these things. It's a multi-factor. He never said that vaccines cause autism. Dr. Wakefield also did not do the research himself. Certified clinics did the research. Dr. Wakefield reviewed their findings and then wrote his opinion. Right? And what is his opinion? That heavy metal buildup and other toxicities from the adjuvants used in those vaccines build up in the gut,
mercury,
building up in the gut, causing autoimmune deficiencies, which in some children who are more susceptible, maybe genetically, I mean, obviously there's a lot more that we don't know at this point, but that was the theory. So it was never really, vaccines cause autism is not really true. Just like saying 9/11 was an inside job implies that Congress voted to allow the 9/11 attacks. Obviously that's not the case. The point is that there were moles within the U.S. government, and there are moles within, or there's an agenda within the pharmaceutical industry that controls the education system, the hospital system. It's all controlled by the drug
grand
companies.
conspiracy.
It doesn't have to be a grand conspiracy. It's a shared set of values, if you will. It's the part of the lobby culture of DC and Big Pharma and the CDC revolving door and WHO and all these agencies that are made up of drug company executives who have a vested interest in profiting from selling vaccines. So when we were kids, I think we were about the
So
same
this
age.
is a socialist debate, right?
When we were kids, we got about 12 vaccines. There has never been a study that's now the Amish community who doesn't vaccinate, they don't eat processed
That's a
food.
lie. They do vaccinate.
No, they don't.
The Amish community does vaccinate their children.
There may be Amish people who vaccinate at large, they do not vaccinate.
Yes.
Prove your positive assertion.
Yeah, prove it, buddy.
Don't believe me? Google it.
So they also don't eat processed foods, and their autism rate is almost zero.
Well, they also go to the doctor about 0 times to get tested for autism. What they do is they take care of their own. So they don't go to the doctor
No,
and
they're-
say, hey, here's my child, and say, are they autistic? And then they don't get included in the numbers
Okay.
because they are removed from society.
Dr. Mayor Eisenstein is a doctor to an Amish community, and he has a lot of research out on this.
The vast majority of Amish do vaccinate their children. It is a fact that many children with autism regressed following normal development, just as they were receiving multiple vaccines at regular doctor visits. Health officials do say that the timing is entirely coincidental. Regression usually occurs, regression akin to autism, usually occurs between 12 and 24 months. Though one study shows that some children show signs of autism as early as 6 months, but never before that age. By 6 months of age, most U.S. children have received about 18 inoculations containing 24 vaccines against 9 diseases. Over the next 2 years or so, they will receive another 9 shots containing 14 vaccines against 12 diseases. The evidence shows that vaccines are unrelated to autism.
The evidence has never, the evidence cannot
In
show that,
2004,
because
the
study has
Institute
never
of
been
Medicine,
done.
a prestigious group of impartial experts who advise Congress on science issues, stated strongly, the evidence from 5 large epidemiological studies, 3 of which involved more than 100,000 children each, did not support a connection between autism and thimerosal-containing vaccines. Similarly, evidence from 14, we'll get to thimerosal and mercury in a minute. Similarly, evidence from 14 large epidemiological studies showed no association between measles, mumps, rubella, MMR, vaccines, and autism. Since that time, even more studies have reinforced the conclusion there's no evidence for a connection. In 2009, after extensive proceedings that generated 5,000 pages of transcript and 939 medical articles, the federal court that administers the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program found the scientific evidence is overwhelmingly contrary to the theory that autism is linked to MMR vaccine, thimerosal, well, I'm almost finished, or a combination of 2. World Health, European Medicines Agency, Health Canada, and other national and international health groups have all dismissed the possibility of a link between vaccines and autism. Now, it is true that the causes of autism are not fully understood, but the evidence does not point towards vaccinations.
The study has never, ever been done to look at the connection between the adjuvants in the vaccines and,
Yes, there has.
and the autism. No, it never has. And who's funded all these studies that you talked about, the government and Big Pharma?
Conspiracy theorists!
Do you have that information?
What are you asking?
Who funded the studies?
Oh, this is the...
I mean,
yeah,
the
sure.
compensation board, obviously,
This
they're
is the
investigations
Institute of
and not
Medicine.
connection.
The Institute of Medicine funded this.
So the medical establishment.
Big pharma study.
Let's talk about formaldehyde and aluminum in vaccines. What do you think that the formaldehyde and aluminum in vaccines are for, Dan?
We have an expert in the audience. Maybe we should bring him up and ask him some of these questions. What do you guys think?
Danny, what is the formaldehyde and aluminum for?
What's that?
Okay, vaccines contain a few components such as formaldehyde and aluminum that may sound dangerous until you understand that everything in a vaccine is there, either because it helps the vaccine do its job or because it is part of making the vaccine. For instance, some vaccines contain a very small quantity of formaldehyde, which is used in vaccine manufacturing to deactivate viruses so they can provide immunity without causing disease. We'll get to questions. Though formaldehyde may sound dangerous, it's actually a natural byproduct of the normal functioning of human cells. The amount of formaldehyde found in vaccines is much less than the amount found in a healthy human body at any given time. Aluminum is an important...
An adult or an infant's body?
All human beings generate formaldehyde. Aluminum is an important component of some vaccines. It is an adjutant, an ingredient that makes it possible for the vaccine to contain a smaller dose of the core substance, which is an antigen.
Still poison.
And
Increase
still
the
protect
profits
against the
of the
disease.
pharmaceutical company.
No, aluminum is the most plentiful substance of Earth's crust. One dose of vaccine contains about as much aluminum as a quart of baby formula. People have heard rumors that vaccines contain antifreeze. They do not. Many studies have looked for a link between thimerosal containing vaccines and autism, but none has been found. A mercury-containing compound, thimerosal, has been used since the 30s as a vaccine preservative in vials that contain several doses of vaccine. Before giving vaccine, a healthcare professional inserts the needle of the syringe that will be used to administer the vaccine into the stopper of a multi-dose vial and draws out a single dose of vaccine. When the needle pierces the stopper, it is possible that contaminants from outside the vial might be introduced, even when sterile technique is used. Thimerosal keeps bacteria or other microorganisms that might have entered the vaccine vial from multiplying.
And then it gives
I guess
you
that-
You're good at
I guess that-
Causation is not correlation, ladies and gentlemen. Just because something happens before another event does not mean that that earlier event caused the later event.
Okay, there's certainly that can be true. So how do you account for the fact that so many parents had the exact same experience where their kid is 18 months old, gets that round of shots, and has a seizure within a few days of the shot, and then all of a sudden starts regression?
Well, I hate to repeat the very first thing that I said of this, which was it's a fact that children with autism...
The same way the
they do fall
passport fell
in
down from the building and...
because regression towards autism does occur at the same time that children start to show signs of autism. So, but causation, correlation is not causation, ladies and gentlemen. I've already proved that. Now let's move on to mercury, because many people claim that the mercury in vaccines are dangerous. But do you know how many types of mercury there are? There's 2 types. Their mercury compound in thimerosal, ethyl mercury, is chemically different from methyl mercury, which is widely recognized as an environmental pollutant. 2 key differences between these types of mercury are that unlike methyl mercury, ethyl mercury is 1, excreted from the body quickly, and 2, not easily transported across the blood-brain barrier, which is...
Can you confirm that, Dr.
Right.
Wallenberg?
The amount of ethyl mercury in a thimerosal preserved vaccine is minuscule compared with the amounts of mercury that is required to cause symptoms of mercury poisoning. And also, the signs and symptoms of mercury poisoning are very different from the characteristics of autism. The chemical difference between ethyl mercury and methyl mercury is similar to the difference between ethyl alcohol, which is found in wine and beer, and methyl alcohol, wood alcohol, which is a poison that's found in antifreeze. But in 2001, all routinely recommended childhood vaccinations were changed to single-dose packaging so they would not require thimerosal. At the time, they thought it was prudent, but then they showed that evidence emerged that shows there was never a danger of children being harmed by thimerosal. And in 2004, the CDC began recommending influenza vaccine for all children 6 to 23 months. Some influenza vaccine formulations do come in multi-dose vials that are preserved with thimerosal. And today, influenza vaccine is the only childhood vaccine licensed for use in the U.S. that contains more than a trace of thimerosal, and we do know that it is safe for children. And studies have found no link between autism and the MMR.
Is it?
Well, if the CDC said it, it must be true.
Yeah.
Are you on the CDC website right now? Is
So you trust the government on
that what
that?
he's reading from?
I don't necessarily trust the government, but when I have no alternative, when we have no competing system of regulatory bodies
That's right.
to go to, I have to take the government's evidence and then I have to go and spread it out amongst the scientific community
But
peer review.
you're looking-
Because there are other scientists out there,
There's a
ladies
lot
and gentlemen,
more.
not just the government scientists.
That's true.
And
You're right.
they do those tests. They do tests to see if there's chemtrails. You don't think that if I was a reporter for Fox that I had discovered evidence of chemtrails, that I would have gone to Judge Napolitano and said, Judge, let's get this out there, man! And he would have gone, hell yeah! Because he asked me,
sure
when Jesse Ventura was going to be on our show, he said, Austin, Jesse Ventura claims that there are FEMA camps. I need you to go to the Brain Room, which is a collection of 24 of the best minds at Fox News, and go and... and to take the evidence,
That is a bottle thing.
and to take those 24 journalists and to go out and find evidence of FEMA camps. And ladies and gentlemen, if I had found evidence, I wouldn't have revealed it. Do you know why? Because it would have made me one of the most famous. I would have become a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist overnight, ladies and gentlemen.
No,
you
you'd
don't
be
think that
called
I
a
would have won a
conspiracy
great prize
theorist
like
and
that?
dismissed.
You would have to think that I was an inside job, and maybe
You
I
are
am.
an inside job because you started your talk by
Ooh.
saying
The bill-
that
the-
conspiracy theorists
There will be gold-plated babies after
marginalized.
this debate.
Listen, fetuses are a delicacy in some cultures. And where does delicacy come from, right? The delicate class, the elite class? I don't know. Do you have evidence that they're not eating gold-plated babies?
if I were to certainly bring that up amongst a group of friends, they'd probably label me a nut job, and I might agree with them. So,
Just because it sounds nutty doesn't mean it's not
Do you have
true.
questions? Catherine?
I would just encourage everybody, if you're interested in the chemtrail issue, there is a organization called the Institute of Weather Modification. You can check them out on weathermodification.org, and there are actual peer-reviewed journals of scientists who are out testing chemtrails. They do spray silver iodide in the sky for rain augmentation. There are chemicals being sprayed in the sky. There are peer-reviewed journals. You can go back
And yet somehow
find.
all the scientific, the science classes, the 18-year-old high school.
That's really rude. You can look at peer-reviewed journals. They go back decades. You can buy a copy of it. So it's weathermodification.org. If you would like to see a company that sells the service of spraying the sky, go to weathermodification.com, and they will show you the airplanes they use, the spraying machines that you can use. They spray it from the ground, they spray it from the sky. There are, in fact, chemicals being sprayed in the sky all over the globe, some for academic purposes, some for research purposes, and some for profit. Don't listen to these guys up
And
here.
don't get all butthurt because I'm a moderator.
Don't believe me.
We don't have a moderator, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the moderator, so don't get all butthurt, all right?
Don't listen. Don't believe me. Don't believe us. Do the research.
Hey, if I'm the moderator,
You can go and look at geoengineering websites. Flora.tv has talks on this all the time. TED. You can go and look at these videos, and these people are talking about doing this. This is not a conspiracy. It just sounds crazy to maybe the people who haven't researched the issue. But geoengineering is real. They really want to spray, if they're not already doing it, they openly talk about wanting to do it. So that plus the exponential increase in aluminum and barium in the soils, I mean, how do you account for that?
because you're testing soils, not air. You're saying chemtrails come from the air. Why are you testing soil samples here?
Because part of the gravity, is gravity a conspiracy theory now?
So you think causation is correlation. You think that because you tested the ground samples and that you're higher in barium. Now, how big was your sample size, ladies and
It
gentlemen?
was all over the world.
How big was your sample
All
size?
over the
Did you
world.
test air from? Did you test ground from Germany and Japan and all over the country, or did you take a few samples and say, oh, this proves my entire theory? Is that what you did?
They tested it all over the world.
Do we have any questions? I'm sorry, we don't have a debate moderator, so if you think I'm a jerk, I'm just trying
Carl
to
is getting her mind.
Thank you. There we go.
Here.
Yes, help us, Carla.
All right, I think what we should do is, if you have a question, bring it up here. I'm laying down some voluntary rules, but I am known to spank. One person talking at a time, one question at a time. Do it in the mic so that we're recording this for posterity.
Prosperity.
And yeah, let's just keep it fun. I 80 people.
Are we lining up for questions?
Evidence is there.
We talked about evidence, and on any debate, there's going to be evidence on both sides. So my question for both of you is, my question for both of you is, what is your process for considering evidence? And if you can answer this without giving examples, that would really be the best.
Can I start? My process for acquiring evidence is to follow the scientific method as closely as I can. And what I do is I'll take lots of evidence and compare it to lots and lots of other evidence. So like, for example, when I cited the 14 studies, I will take all these 14 studies and I'll compare them all and see if any trends emerge. See, a lot of times what happens is with conspiracy theorists, they'll take one single point of evidence and build an entire theory around it. But my rational review of evidence is to take lots and lots of evidence and see what works. And what doesn't work, I throw out. What does work, I keep. That's my process review.
My process is I watch YouTube videos and I listen to Alex Jones. I know that's what often thinks my process is. He's right though. With 9/11, there was only one piece of evidence, and we built the whole theory around one piece of evidence. It wasn't thousands of pieces of evidence. That then, in context,
Was it missiles that hit the towers? I mean,
Well,
was it
we
a
don't know.
hologram? Were the buildings a
there were
hologram?
witnesses that saw planes.
There were a lot of different stories that came out, and
Yeah.
Loose Change was redone 4 times, and each time they had to change it because they had to revise it with the facts that were revealed. Science is always constantly searching and revealing for the answers, and there are lots of different people who are saying different things, and what you have to do is take the most up-to-date evidence and compare it with what's in the past, and you have to throw away the bad and you have to keep the good.
Sure.
Oh,
The idea, though, of the truth movement is to demand a new investigation. It is asking questions. You criticized that before,
Yeah.
but that is the point of the truth
no,
movement.
I'm criticizing positive assertions. You say it's an inside job, you have to prove it. You're not just asking questions if you make a positive assertion.
Well,
I think there's
I mean-
significant evidence for moles on the inside of the U.S. government, at the very least.
well, one of the reasons I actually asked at the start that you define the terms is because in some ways anyone who's a conspiracy theorist is also skeptical. I mean, it's really the same thing. It's just, it looks like you look at the evidence in one way and sort of say, well, this is scientific, and some other people look at the evidence in another way and are asking questions. So sort of the rabbit hole, but there is research that backs up the rabbit hole, and I feel like you just choose not to look at it. And Danny's going to give us an example of some of that research.
Well, I want to say, because you referred to me, what I believe you're doing is engaging in confirmation bias, which is what that means is basically, is that confirmation bias means that you take a piece of evidence and you believe in something, you have faith in that, so you go out and you seek evidence to confirm your bias. And what I'm trying to do
I'm a little smarter than
no,
that.
I'm not saying you, but I'm not saying you, I'm saying in general.
Usually a lot of people do that, sure.
So that everybody does. Liberals do that with socialism. They believe in socialism, so they go out and find the facts and evidence, and they have a socialist calculation debate to prove that socialism works. But that's not how science works. Science tries to find evidence to debunk a commonly held belief. They try and piece together evidence and say that this is a theory.
But see, here's the problem with that is, at least in my personal experience, Richard Gage, who's the head of architects and engineers, 1,700 engineers and architects that have reviewed just the way the buildings collapsed, and from the laws of physics have determined that it could have only been an aided collapse. It was not just falling due to fire or the jet fuel. But
1,700 sounds like a lot, but many more thousands disagree with them.
hold on. Who
Larger
what
sample
thousand?
size.
This was the only one that disagreed with them. No one else is
Popular
on the record.
mechanics and many of our absolutely.
Missed the popular mechanics. Okay, that's everybody else. So anyway, the point is Richard Gage did not start out as a conspiracy theorist. I did not start out as a conspiracy theorist. In December of, I guess it was, when would the bailout start? That was like 2007 or was it
February
2008?
2008.
Okay, so 2007 is when Bush said, we gotta suspend capitalism to save it. And that's what started me like, what's going on?
Me too.
I thought you were a real fucking asshole if you thought 9/11 was an inside job at that point. I thought Bush was a great president. I was a raging neocon. And 6 months later, after reviewing the evidence, I was now a conspiracy theorist. Richard Gage did not set out to. He wasn't a conspiracy theorist looking for the next conspiracy. The Loose Change guys, they were not conspiracy theorists.
Oh, really?
Were they? Do you know something different than I
You're
do?
saying that the
Luke, can you confirm? Were Corey and Dylan
Loose Change, the
seeking to prove that 9/11 was an inside job, or was it the evidence that made them come to that conclusion?
how many times did they change the document? Yeah, run away.
Well, yeah, as information came out, some information proved to be not so great. They eliminated some.
Well, the
Yeah,
official
sure.
story was whitewashed from top to bottom, and I've already told you that I don't believe it, and I'll tell you what I think happened. I think that all of our intelligence agencies got together, they said, oh, you got this, oh, you got this, oh, no, oh, damn, we dropped the ball. And they all dropped the ball and they failed, just like they fail every single time that they try and centrally plan our economy, and they fail at national defense. And we should not trust the government's official story. That's not what I'm saying we do. I do not defend the government. I think that these murderers should be prosecuted, at least for the complacency that they stood when they allowed this to happen. And I want real justice. I want to find out what happened. I have a few theories about what happened, and I've spoken to a lot of the military officials that were involved. And I spoke to Philip Zelikow, the head of the 9/11 Commission report, and I grilled him, and I tried to find out what happened. And in the end, he said that he thought it was boring. And I said, Mr. Zelikow, my viewers don't think that this is boring, and I think that I'd like to get an official statement from you, and I want you to know, sir, that everything that you say right now is on the record, and I will be reporting it, sir. And I took him to task, and I found out I found out, ladies and gentlemen, that the conspiracy was most likely in the cover-up. If anyone has heard of Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer, who wrote a book called Operation Darkheart, he details an intelligence operation called Able Danger, where Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer, which his story is not corroborated and we cannot accept, but I do question and say that we should look at, says that they actually identified one of the key hijackers on 9/11, Mohammed Atta, that he was in the United States, he was determined to attack, that we had the information, that we could have stopped him, and none of our intelligence agencies, our president, our Secretary of State, all failed. I do not believe the official story, but I'm telling you right now that it was not some reptilian conspiracy by George Bush.
See, there you gotta go with the straw man bringing over reptilians. So, yeah, you're right.
They're real.
Michael Springman, who works for the State Department, was going to deny Atta and some of the other guys that were on a terrorist list visas, and his higher-up told him, you're going to approve those visas or you're fired. He came out as a whistleblower, and then, of course, he's demonized and marginalized. But
What they do.
that's what they do. Patrick Kennedy later admitted after the underwear bombing that they let him on the plane to watch him. So obviously there was a conspiracy to allow terrorists on a watch list to enter our country so that we could keep an eye on them.
Conspiracy to allow? Please.
Yeah, more of a question is just an observation. I mean, we started this thing all out, and you're obviously very prepared and make a lot of really good points. I just think it's hysterical that you start off calling conspiracy theorists collectivists and socialists because they believe that the government could do something, and then for the rest of the debate, you're quoting government agencies and atheists.
You're engaging in a fallacy of confirmation bias because I listed three or four independent agencies that have no government ties whatsoever. So you're biased, sir, and you're confirming your bias. You're all confirming your bias.
The question would be, where do they get their money? If they're taking any kind of grant money, if it looks like it's a college, if it's an academic paper, follow the money. And if you could say definitively that the people you're saying, 3 or 4 independent ones, have you checked where they get their money?
So,
the Institute of Medicine.
So, Catherine just handed me some evidence here on the chemtrails issue. Weather Modification Incorporated client list on their website, openly advertised on their website. United States, the U.S. Department of Defense, L3 Communications, who by the way also manufactures the naked body scanners. Delaware Department of Agriculture. Okay, so they're seeding for rain. What else?
Questions?
Sure, question, go ahead.
My question is not really a question, it's more I want you guys to address, well mostly you to address the situation of how about the fact that in Pennsylvania where the plane crashed into the ground, there was no plane, and if you look at pictures and elsewhere in the world where there's a plane that crashed into the ground, you obviously see the engine, you see the plane, you can see compartments, you can see dead body. The coroner showed up on the site and he said, what am I doing here? There was no body, there was nothing, there was no evidence of a hole in the ground. The plane, the building fell down in 8 seconds. That's not possible. You watch a video of where other demolitions take place, the buildings fall down the same exact way. When buildings are on fire, they fall down sideways, and then they crumble into each other. And then when they did the testing of the dust that came out of the soil, of the dust from the collapse of the World Trade Center, they found a military-grade explosive in there that you could only get from the U.S. military, okay? Also, when you looked at the beams afterwards, after the building collapsed, you found cuts in the beams. Also, on the issue of vaccination, I happen to know people living in New Jersey, and I know them well. After they were, and I know this woman that lives in New Jersey, after the baby was vaccinated, it's a requirement in New Jersey for the children to get vaccinated in order to attend the schools. And all the children, a lot of children, after they were vaccinated, immediately started acting different. All of them? Well, most of them. A lot of them started acting different, had upbringing, had psychological problems, had autism. So if you could address that,
That's a lot. You just asked me, you probably asked me.
Let's stick to the whole of Pennsylvania.
So should we talk about the vaccines or should we talk about
He didn't have specific information about the vaccine, so let's talk about the whole.
Which coroner? You know, there's not always just one coroner that goes to
The
these
coroner
types
from
of
the
accidents.
county that where the plane crashed.
One more thing concerning the government studies and this thing. Don't you think that there's an ulterior motive from the government to say these things, that they're funded by the Rockefeller and the Ford Foundation and stuff like
I
that?
think the conspiracy is in the cover-up. I think that the government loves 9/11 conspiracy theories, and they want us to have these kinds of discussions because it deflects from the real justice in
How about the 7/7 bomb? The 7/7 bombing in Britain, where the train,
let me cut in here. I actually think that the Shanksville plane was where our military succeeded. Whether it was against orders, I believe that this is the theory, obviously I can't prove it, but the engines of the plane landed 8 miles away from that crater in Shanksville. So that says to me, most likely that plane was shot out of the air. There's no way titanium engines are going to bounce 8 miles. So the evidence seems to point to the fact that the plane exploded in midair. Maybe the military was able to respond to that plane and shot it down. Maybe there was a bomb on the plane and it exploded in the air. Whatever it is, we don't know. There's no eyewitness testimony that's come. But it's a reasonable theory to say, based on the evidence that we have, there's no evidence that a plane really crashed here, that it exploded in midair.
I promised people earlier that I would reveal a conspiracy, a heretofore unknown conspiracy that not many people are aware of. And I wanted to get that out before this all ended. We'll get to the questions in just a moment. But there was a KGB tie to the JFK assassination. And in 1992, when a former high-level KGB official defected to the United Kingdom, he brought with him an archive of detailed top-secret information known as the Mitroshkin Archive. Look it up, Mitrokin Archive. And since it basically hit the intelligence community like a new Harry Potter book, the information that it contains has been authenticated by everyone from the FBI, members of the British Parliament, the United States Air Force Academy, the American Historical Review, and perhaps most impressively of all, Wikipedia. One of the more surprising revelations was the KGB was actively involved in an extensive campaign to spread misinformation about the Kennedy assassination and to undermine the U.S. government. In short, there was a KGB-led Kennedy conspiracy to spread conspiracy theories. Because, you know, we're not really worried about, listen, it might sound kind of meta, but for a Russian intelligence community, people, if you look at it, the CIA and the KGB were openly engaged in a culture war. And the KGB was acutely attuned to American popular culture, and they were impressed with the Americans' ability to generate new JFK conspiracy theories that fly in the face of evidence. So using handwritten samples and phrasing from letters written by Oswald while he was in Russia, the KGB forged a letter from Oswald to a known CIA operative that referenced a secret meeting just days before the assassination. It was so expertly done that everyone from handwriting experts to Oswald's freaking wife confirmed that it must have been written on. And after the KGB sent the letter to the conspiracy theorists in the United States, the letter eventually made it into the mainstream media. And in accordance with the triple-up law sensational BS, the New York Times reported that 3 handwriting experts had confirmed its authenticity. An official government inquiry in the 1970s showed that the KGB were very pleased to find that far more Americans believed some version of the KGB conspiracy theory than accepted the findings of the Warren Commission. So there's good news and there's bad news, conspiracy theorists. There was a JFK assassination conspiracy. Unfortunately, you were the puppets, making this the saddest example of fans getting manipulated by their obsessions prior to the Star Wars.
The KGB is still inciting conspiracy theories.
What does that have to do with Pennsylvania?
RT covers a lot of conspiracy theories, don't they? RT has a lot of quote-unquote liberty programming, don't they? Is it because they love liberty? Obviously not. They just want to criticize the U.S. government. Does that make what goes on that channel false? No, of course not. So there may have very well been a disinformation campaign by the KGB, and that does not mean that the CIA was not involved with whacking JFK.
Well,
and I'm not saying
wants us to believe that,
I'm not saying
because they want to undermine the American government, and maybe the American government's bad, but let me tell you what, the commies are worse.
They're all collectivists, so I don't see any difference. Next question.
I have a question about, I think it's important that you mention JFK because I think it is all linked. If we listen to the soldiers, like General Smathers, the Marine Corps general, that told us about war being a racket and our government was a fascist entity and the military was being used as a tool. I think it's a little naive to sit up here and look at it in a scientific perspective and criticize people that have conspiracy theories to answer questions there are no real answers for. I do believe it's a lot like the 9/11 events, a lot like the JFK assassination. It's sad, but I don't think we'll ever have all the answers, so all we really have is conspiracy theories. But I want you to talk about a little bit about how it made you feel these events at 9/11. I was, you're talking about popular consensus. The people that do take the time to research these events in an independent way and come up with different conclusions, I believe they have the moral courage. They're not following the popular consensus. It's not easy to put a bumper sticker on the car that says 9/11 was an inside job, or we need a new investigation because we don't believe in answers. You know, I felt really scared and sad when I couldn't explain that there was no plane in Pennsylvania. There's not a single. The government's not willing to release one photo of a plane hitting the Pentagon out of all the surveillance in the Pentagon, all the gas stations. I don't know exactly what happened. I don't believe we ever will. But can you tell me a little bit about just how it made you feel and why you think it's completely out of the question that the U.S. government could have been complicit in allowing a terrorist attack to happen on U.S. soil as a pretext for an invasion in the Middle East that has been planned for years. And if you listen all the way back to General Eisenhower and his speech about the military-industrial complex, the JFK assassination, the links are there. The evidence, obviously, if we knew right now, there would we'd be living in a very different world, and the popular consensus would have to agree that something happened. But I don't think America's ever going to really reach that point. But can you just tell me a little bit more about how you have such concrete opinions that the U.S. government couldn't have been complicit, or the cities, or any of our intelligence agencies, in allowing or aiding an attack on U.S. soil as a pretext for war?
All right, before you guys address that, I'm going to get strict.
I'm going to get strict now. I think we should limit our responses to maybe a couple of seconds. Keep your questions short. If you want to ask a question, jump in now. At the end of that line, I think we got to wrap it up. So, brief answers on how it made you feel.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't. The question is, can we boil it down? How did it make you feel, the events of 9/11 specifically?
Are you psychologically capable of showing the evidence of accepting that the government had a role in it?
Well, I could if I had the evidence, and if I had the evidence, ladies and gentlemen, I would have blown it up for all to see. Because
Well, Rummy wrote a paper.
I want to be a truth teller. I want to. I'm also.
Evidence I'd like you to see.
Please bring me the evidence. I would absolutely see it. But you said, sir, that people are courageous for standing and putting a sticker on their car. Well, Don Quixote was very courageous when he tilted at windmills. But those windmills were windmills. They weren't dragons. And he was being very courageous when he was chasing his...
Rummy, Cheney, and a bunch of his neocon buddies told us exactly why they at least let 9/11 happen, if not helped it along. You know, being that... how many of the hijackers were trained on military bases, Luke? 4? 5? Something like that? Prove it. So, you've got Cheney and Rummy saying, you know, we need a new Pearl Harbor, that's their phrase, to justify invading Iraq, Afghanistan, and Iran. Specifically those 3 countries. That must be a coincidence that we just happen to go into those. So, I don't know, you know, you've got terrorists allowed into our country, trained on our bases, pulling off the most sophisticated, I mean, this is a pretty sophisticated attack that they hit 3 out of 4 targets in the most secure airspace on the planet. They hit the most secure building on the planet. And while there's drills, I mean, look, at the very least, I would say somebody on the inside had to be leaking information. Even if you accept the story that Al-Qaeda did it independently, somebody inside had to be leaking information to them for them to be able to pull it off in this way.
This undermines our argument against blowback. If 9/11 was an inside job, then it wasn't blowback, and Ron Paul's wrong. And is Ron Paul wrong?
Ron Paul is certainly
because
capable of being
9/11
wrong.
conspiracy theorists called Ron Paul a liar. Because Ron Paul doesn't believe that 9/11 was an inside job, and he said it openly. It is, absolutely.
That's his public position.
Yeah, and you know why? Because Ron Paul would have told us the truth, ladies and gentlemen. I do believe Ron Paul. I do believe in some authorities. I believe Ron Paul. And if Ron Paul would have found that evidence, he would have given it to us.
Looks like Austin's got a sacred cow of his own.
Ron Paul is inside job.
Ron Paul is Raggedy Andy.
I was wondering, you thought the U.S. military really assassinated bin Laden and threw him in the ocean, and what evidence there is besides the government's rights to question?
I don't know. You know what? When that day happened, it was a tragedy because not only did that undermine any chance that we might have had real justice, which I really want, but it fueled the government. Who knows? The government. If I was to conspiracy theorize, the government might have said, well, the conspiracy theorists and libertarians are marginalizing themselves such right now, and the liberty movement is growing. If we bring back this body of Osama bin Laden, or if we bring Osama bin Laden back alive, he would start talking. He would start talking about the conspiracy of Ayman al-Zawahiri and as the protege of Saeed al-Qutb, who was a victim of torture policies in the United States, and that torture policy radicalized the Islamic jihadists, and that came back to bite us in the ass from the 1950s on. So,
I believe it because I think Obama's a secret Muslim.
Okay, but here's a question, and I'm not sure if this has confirmation bias or not, but why is it that if the government knows people want answers to questions, they do things in this way where they get a secret hit team and they go, why aren't there cameras? Why isn't there film? Why aren't they shining the light on it? No,
they're
there's
on
not.
a need-to-know basis. And you don't
They
need to
did have
know.
helmet cams. The soldiers who wore, after we're all dead, ladies and gentlemen, the videos from the assassination of bin Laden will be revealed. And after anybody.
By all those dead Navy SEALs,
Right, because you know why? Because the assholes, generals that were involved in training Osama bin Laden in the 1980s to go after the Russians, sure as hell didn't want Osama bin Laden coming back to the United States and talking.
You know, it sounds like you're halfway there.
Foreign policy advisor.
I mean, I think what you're doing is actually an important job as a reporter to actually try and go and put the pieces together with corroboration. But I think you need to open your mind a little more.
See, the thing is, he revealed himself in his opening statement because he said conspiracy theories hurt the overall liberty movement. He has his own bias that he doesn't want there to be. He doesn't want to become a conspiracy theorist because then he feels like he's marginalizing the grander scheme of liberty.
But I think that's legitimate. I mean,
I'm not saying it's not a legitimate concern. I'm saying he's not impartial. He's not impartial because he has that presupposition.
Does anybody plan to run for office one day? I know, Adam, you've run before. Did you run on a 9/11 as an inside job platform?
Totally.
Did you? How did it go for you?
Oh, you didn't?
He ran a Republican ticket.
Oh, did you? Oh, so he's an inside job. So he's a GOP hack.
You are.
Correlation is not causation.
All right, go ahead. Ingrid's question.
Hey, my question is, I was wondering, my question is, I was wondering both of your opinions on the Oklahoma City bombing, because that's one topic that not most people are open to, that there is more to it.
Oklahoma was an inside job.
Honestly, I wish I prepared something for that. I wouldn't want to give you an opinion based on anything that's just conjecture. It appears that Tim McVeigh did have a conspiracy with his buddy, who was the guy who went to prison there for a while. They had to bring him out with he had an accomplice, and they put together a bunch of styrofoam peanuts with explosives, and they wired a bomb to blow up at Oklahoma City. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? Timothy McVeigh was a conspiracy theorist. And he felt that he was doing a great service by violating our libertarian principles and killing people. So if is that what we want to be? We want to be like Timothy McVeigh? No, we don't want to be those who
I like those assumptions.
Well, that was the feds. That was the feds. He blew up a federal building, ladies and gentlemen. Do you condone that violence?
He was also an FBI agent. Come on, Jesse.
I wish I had more information. I apologize.
Yeah, it's totally an inside job. There's just like
I actually have a question for Danny about motive on the subject of vaccinations and the association with autism. What would be it seems like the incentive that for the kind of covering up of those results would be the opposite. Like, wouldn't you think that the government would really want to prevent autism, since the growth in like autism and Asperger's syndrome is also correlated with the growth in the liberty movement?
They probably haven't studied it from that
Libertarianism causes autism. It's a fact.
I think that there's profit motive on several levels. the average doctor's office holds about $100,000 worth of vaccine inventory. They need to push those vaccines to get them off their shelves as a widget, right? I mean, the pharmaceutical industry obviously does not want to stop disease, because if they stop disease, they will put themselves out of business, right? I mean, their business is to make profit. So if the adjuvants that they're using in the vaccines are causing autoimmune problems, that's going to lead to a lifetime of being sick, of having Asperger's or autism or any of these autoimmune diseases, that then your immune system no longer works on its own the way God or nature intended it to work. Now you need help from Big Pharma. You need to take 3 or 4 pills every day for the rest of your life. That's residual income.
So it's profit motive.
So it's certainly profit motive. Look, there's the eugenics component but that's very hard to do.
If your patient dies, you can't make any more money.
Obviously, we know John Holdren is an open eugenicist. He talks about it. Bill Gates is an open eugenicist. He talks about it.
That's not true.
And they fund these types of initiatives.
Bill Gates talking about population control in the context of vaccines was because when people have vaccines, their babies live longer, so you don't have to have as many babies.
But he said that
it's not about depopulating the planet. Bill Gates was talking about the fact that when more people live and you have more babies, you have less babies because your babies live longer. You don't have to have 8 babies.
Population control is eugenics.
Voluntary population control is not.
It's not voluntary when you're releasing mosquitoes. When you're releasing mosquitoes that administer the vaccines, that's not voluntary.
Yes, it is. It's voluntary.
How is it voluntary that an African gets stung by a mosquito that injects them with a vaccine, a bioengineered mosquito? That's not a conspiracy theory. Google it.
All right, we're going to move to the next question, because if we're going to get to yes, no, that's
the mysterious Colin.
Well, hey, the mysterious Colin. So my question would be, why did Germany bomb Hiroshima, and how did that lead to Operation Desert Storm?
I have no idea what we're saying to you right now. 9/11 was still an inside job.
He's just asking questions now.
There may be a good question there. You might want to break that story. You can become a celebritarian. And Austin's going to teach you later how to become a good celebritarian.
Yes,
so don't miss that. 5 o'clock.
All right, guys.
Two truths that the mainstream media likes to push is that the cool ozone layer was caused by chlorofluorocarbons. If you're stable, inert, and non-toxic, there's no way to have a whole ozone layer because the very rays and source protection against is caused between the rays and oxygen. So Antarctica, sunlight, so now we have chemicals that are toxic and expensive, so that's profit driven. Another is DDT, where a single point, peregrine falcon eggs were said to be thinning and that was reducing. Single point, again, a micrometer to measure the eggs was smaller or not as accurate as the measurement for the eggs. Single point, now we have mosquitoes, West Nile virus, and more agenda 21 type population control.
I really have very little idea what you just said.
Just saying that there's a profit. Yeah, profit
CFCs
is.
are inert only on the ground. They're ionized when they're in the upper atmosphere. They're inert here. Stop using those big words!
Sir, would you please come up here and make a point, because I'm afraid I'm not a scientist and it appears you understand.
Eugenics, the study or belief in the possibility of improving the qualities of the human species or human
Let's
population.
not change topics here, sir. Will you please? This man has written the question.
I'm waiting for him to come to the mic.
Please, sir, please come up, please.
The first thing that was said was CFCs couldn't have caused a hole in the ozone layer because they're inert, right? They're inert. They're inert underneath the ozone layer on the surface where UV rays have been filtered out. When they filter up into the upper atmosphere, which does take time from when they're released, but it happens, they become ionized, they become reactive, and they break up ozone molecules. That's just a fact. It's just fucking chemistry.
We weren't debating global warming. That's another topic. Thank you. 3409.
Well, let's forget about Shanksville, the Twin Towers. Was there any planes hitting anything? And let's just look. Do you think Building 7, there's something a little fishy about it?
I did for a while, and I asked those questions.
Well, so we got a little conspiracy theory, or inner conspiracy theories coming out.
I'm not making a positive assertion that it was an inside job, sir. What I'm saying is that the questions that I asked about Building 7 are based on the evidence that I put together. And when I looked at some of the photographs from the North Tower slamming into the bottom of World Trade 7, I saw that multiple support structures had been compromised.
Okay, so you do think something is fishy about Building 7, that's what I'm asking you.
Well, fishy in what?
Forget everything else about 9/11.
I did for a while, but then I've reassured myself with some of the evidence and photography that I've looked at that was not revealed in any of the 9/11 news chain reports.
I'd like to see that.
Okay.
I'd like to see those photos.
Yeah, I'll ask questions.
It's a complete mind
but I won't make a positive.
Good.
I have a question for Danny and I have a question for Austin. And both these guys, I don't care where you are on any of these issues. I know these gentlemen both personally for years and they're great guys. So don't make any sort of judgment about them. You know, they're doing us all a service coming up here and actually talking about these ideas. So I want to thank you for that. Now, question for Danny, and then I'll immediately ask you and you guys can. So Danny, my question for you is, considering the extensive network of peer review that exists in our modern era with all the science and all the universities, how do you account for what seems to be disregarding peer review as capable of bringing certain things to light? So, you know, if you're saying there are these certain chemicals in the air and there's 1 million chemists, then why don't you have the positive proof on paper? Or am I wrong, you have it, and I just have what you're saying? And now, for Austin, the idea or the claim that vaccines don't cause autism is a null hypothesis. So you can only fail to reject the null hypothesis, you know, in the course of the scientific method. Would you agree then that if we ever stop trying to reject the null hypothesis, we're actually no longer being scientific? And so we should always keep looking for this link because it's really that important, and we can never just say, no, it doesn't cause it, because that's a null hypothesis.
Sure, but how much money do you spend? Infinite resources trying to confirm something that you confirm multiple times?
I'm
not going to say no. I'm not going to say no, don't, never ask questions. I'm not going to say no, don't investigate what you believe to be an issue with mercury and ethyl mercury and what it might be in the vaccines. Absolutely. But what you can't do is say you're going to expend infinite resources forever trying to solve the theory of gravity. If you've got the theory of gravity and it seems to work, put it together, do the math, and make it happen. But let's not waste time here, guys. We've got issues that we can deal with right now. And I'm trying to say that right now we need to work on the issues that are of critical importance right now. The things that really do affect liberty. And we can affect change in this country. I believe that we can.
Vaccines
not
are
by
destroying our children.
focusing on things that have been disproven and debunked.
Look, the study has never been done with as the premise. It's just never been done. And that's all Wakefield is saying. It's the name of his book is Callous Disregard, because they're just not studying the potential links between the vaccines and autoimmune diseases.
And Callous Disregard was written by Wakefield, who he said was discredited. So he just cited a source that he discredited earlier.
He was discredited
He
by
debunked himself, ladies and gentlemen.
He was discredited by who? The medical establishment? The status
you just
quo?
debunked it. You debunked it half an hour ago, Danny.
Oh, apparently I'm being told that the journalist who allegedly discredited him apologized, but they don't widely publicize that. That apology was on page 30.
I had one tongue as well, but I don't have one tongue.
I'm sorry, I can't.
All right.
There's a difference
I've got a tough one for Danny and the conspiracy side. So if JFK was an inside job in Oklahoma City, 9/11, first, would you agree with me that if there were another elaborate attack, it would be good for the statists, to be good for the growth of government? So why don't they do it?
Who says they're not?
It's been...
The underwear bomber was an inside job.
It's been over 10 years since 9/11,
anybody.
and they haven't staged another...
Okay, they have. The underwear bombing. The FBI, Austin has done reports on it. The FBI stages terror attacks all the time, and then they defeat them.
Times Square.
They give a guy a dud bomb and then stop him in the nick of time before he explodes the non-explosive.
They do not give him a bomb. They provide him with
They didn't give the
material
Christmas
assistance.
tree bomber the bomb?
They provide a psycho with the material assistance that they need to go out and find the materials that they were going to do.
The judge did a
It is
report.
entrapment. I think it's wrong. The government's absolutely wrong to engage in that.
Entrapment is an inside job.
it's not necessarily an inside job as much as it is looking for the crazies, poking a hornet's nest, and seeing which is the biggest, baddest mother effing crazy.
What I'm saying is that if there's a successful attack, if there were another successful attack, I think that would be very good for the state. People would be even more scared. People would give away more freedoms. If they're so good at staging these situations, why not do it again?
Who says they're not?
That's what I'm saying. That's what he says.
Well, there may be times that the FBI legitimately stops another faction. Look, the guy that with the '93 bombing, he felt like it was supposed to be a drill, it was supposed to be a duck bomb. At the last minute, they're like, yeah, we'll use a real bomb. He started reporting his phone calls with his FBI informant because he was like, I'm being set up here. And there's thousands of pages of transcripts from those phone calls. We don't talk about the '93 bombing being an inside job. So was it an inside job, or was it one of these, setups, entrapment situations gone awry? I don't know. I do know that the State Department admits that it escorted the underwear bomber on the plane. The underwear bomber, look, he's not maybe a credible source, but he claims during his trial that he was given the bomb by the feds, by the State Department, I don't know. Apparently, they think it's okay to let terrorists on planes. They escort them. A State Department official escorted him on the plane, but yet didn't run him through security first to see if he had a bomb or weapons. A known Al-Qaeda sympathizer. But so there have been incidents since then. They haven't had to let anything come to fruition. I mean, look, 9/11 had a profound mental and emotional effect on this country. That still, I mean, we're starting to come to the point where now that they killed bin Laden, I think a lot of Americans feel like we finally have closure. So maybe it's time. I actually think that there's a lot of intelligent chatter going around the Chicago area. I think that there could be an attack coming up soon.
Danny, do you believe that the 9/11 movement is over? Like you told me yesterday, you said the 9/11 movement was dead.
Yeah, I think that to some degree, the fact that they killed bin Laden,
and let's not beat a
10th
dead horse,
anniversary.
ladies and gentlemen. Let's get back to the business of fighting for liberty. Because in 2 weeks, an audit of the Fed bill will hit the House floor. Then it will be brought to the Senate by Senator Rand Paul. And we might get a real audit of the Fed. And I'll tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, if we work together like we did the last time, we can audit the Fed, and in 10 years we can end it.
Yeah, awesome.
Now let's get back to the business of advancing liberty.
9/11 truth ends wars. It takes away their justification for the military-industrial complex. Yes, it does.
I mean, these things don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Truth is never a waste of time.
It's not a mutually exclusive situation. We all get to indulge our own interests, and we're people who like to search for truth. And I think this is a healthy part of what we do as people. We're inquisitive, follow the money, ask questions, do all of those things. And so in the end, it's not something that's truly divisive. I mean, it's fun.
You're collectivizing people who question the official story. You're collectivizing. Idiots, crazies, paranoid delusionals, all of those words are collectivized.
Well, and those words come from the people who want to make these ideas go away. I mean, it's basically grenades and propaganda.
I would like these ideas to go away because they're not real. So let's take the good ideas that we have, guys, and throw away the bad.
How do you know
Let's
there's
be
no
spontaneous.
reptilians?
Let's believe in spontaneous order and let's apply it.
This is spontaneous order.
Yes. And so, listen, I believe in Hayek's pretense of knowledge. I don't have all the answers, ladies and gentlemen, but neither do you. But one person is not as smart as all of us. And so I will take the best, the cream of the crop of all of your ideas, and I will dismiss what I don't believe. And I'm simply saying that I don't believe in chemtrails, and I would like those ideas to go away.
Don't judge me.
And I don't believe in vaccines causing autism, and I would like those ideas to go away because they're dangerous. And I would like the ideas of Holocaust denial to go away because I think racism is not libertarian.
I don't know any Holocaust deniers.
There are Holocaust deniers.
I know Holocaust revisionists who question the numbers.
There are Holocaust deniers and racists and anti-Semites.
Absolutely.
That's not libertarian.
Absolutely.
When the newsletters dropped before Iowa, how did you all feel? Did you all apologize for racism? Did you condone it? Or did you say you don't believe those ideas and you would like to put those ideas away? Excuse me, work tongue. I'm trying to make a point. That we have bad ideas. And somebody asked the question about whether or not we should get rid of ideas. Yes, we should get rid of these ideas. Absolutely. Bad ideas deserve to go away.
Censorship.
Yeah.
Fascism.
We should get rid of the ideas you don't like.
Yeah, Pseudoscience? Absolutely. Quackery? Yes.
Quackery.
Who defines
I see a quack.
quack versus censorship?
Well, I've tried to explain. If you don't know.
All right, this is getting out of hand. All right, this is getting out of hand. We've got people. Yes, let's do the last 4, and then we're done.
All right, sounds good.
Voting's an inside job.
Voting is
an inside job.
Yourself and Carla are making an error in reasoning when you're talking about, I always hear people talk about follow the money, and look where the money comes from. But that kind of reduces man to homo economist. Like, it's totally just an input-output machine. We have no other values other than responding to money. And that's actually a main criticism people make of libertarianism, and it's not true. And I don't know whether you're a minarchist or not, you know, I don't know if you're wrong or right.
I am not.
I do not believe,
I was a very short
I do
time
not think
ago.
profit motive is a negative thing, and I do not believe that
It's a negative
that
thing
you
if
can-
you're committing
that you can-
fraud to make that profit.
You cannot assume that everyone that works in an industry that is completely monopolized by the state, it's your only path to get into this industry. You know, not everyone is going to be this evil person that's only responding to that puppet of the government. There's definitely people within the CDC. There's definitely people that are, if anything, doctors, you know, union steel workers, you know, I mean, they're not just evil people.
Some of them,
They're people.
that's right. And they're educated by the medical industrial complex that is funded, and the textbooks are written by Big Pharma, and the whole, it does come to money. And then maybe the few that do disagree with the research are afraid to speak out because then their research won't be funded.
Peer review and these public publication of documents with this research is what we have to overcome these sort of biases. And it's not like they're the only ones making money. It's not like the persons who are taking the, you know, what I would consider more your point of view, are the only persons that can make money off of this. And often these people are. They're pushing their own like alternative products, their own services. Everyone stands to profit.
Right, Alex Jones makes money.
But I don't need to.
Absolutely.
I don't need
I don't have
to
a problem with making money. I have a problem with fraud.
I don't need to look at who gave you money when you present an argument. The argument should be able
It's
to
just one
stand,
part of the argument.
should stand on its own merits. If you're saying she could sue 5, and you're saying she could sue 4, I don't care that he's funded by reptilian Jew bankers, okay?
Okay.
His argument could stand on its own. It doesn't need
All right, but the problem is that we don't have
his employers.
We don't have the scientific information because it's being the medical industrial complex is using money to keep it from being studied. So the one guy, actually it wasn't even one guy because the Wakefield study was duplicated in 30 countries. They just don't talk about it. So the magazines that are funded by pharma advertising will pull the story a year later. They didn't have a problem with it when they published it. A year later they pull it and they retract it.
Okay, well I just think that you have to be cognizant that you're making.
Yeah, no,
you can make this
profit motive is not a bad thing. I'm a capitalist. I'm not saying that. But when you commit fraud,
The money is exchanged.
Sir, what is your name?
Voluntary, it's all this.
Sir, what is your name? Darren makes a very important point here. Very important point here, ladies and gentlemen. It's similar to the argument that Ron Paul made when he took money from Stormfront. Does Ron Paul taking money from Stormfront make him racist? Or does the fact that he took the money from the evil people that he doesn't agree with and used it for good make him a moral fighter? So you have to ask yourself if people, just because you take money from the government, just because you take money from the state, doesn't necessarily mean you're an evil person. To do so would be to say Adam Kokesh is a Russian communist agent because he worked for Russia Today. I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Adam Kokesh is an inside job.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that he was shilling for Putin or that he thought the ideas of Putin were good just because he was taking money from
told
Putin.
you he was. We have evidence.
It's admitted.
Look at the beard, people.
That's some white-out kind of shit right there. Dr. Lowenberg.
Just because you get money from bad people doesn't mean that you're a bad person yourself. You might use it for good.
Agreed. Peter Thiel is a Bilderberger and he gives money to Ron Paul.
I love Peterson. I wish I could. If I could go to the Bilderberg conference, I would do it in a second. I would go to the Bilderberg conference in my best suit and tie, and I would fight for liberty, and I would infiltrate, and you would have a freedom ninja on the inside. And I bet you Peter Thiel's doing something similar to that, because I like Peter Thiel.
And
Austin Peterson would be the exact job. I was at Fox. I was the cyanide in the Kool-Aid at Fox, ladies and gentlemen, because I did report on a lot of things that the government did. I was reporting the real delegate counts when the other news agencies were reporting the primary numbers.
And that's why you got
that's why the government had to shut us up. Yeah, because...
You like to talk, buddy.
Fox. Yeah, I know. Motives.
It's definitely a conspiracy.
Yes.
Yes, a group of people made that decision.
So my question is, it's Austin, correct? My question for you, because you seem like a really smart guy, you really do your homework, you read the research. You had a lot of information, like you talking about all the vaccines. I mean, it looks like you're reading right from the CDC website exactly what they want us to think about shots and what the research proves and all of that. My question for you is, are you open to the idea that maybe vaccines are related to autism, and also that vaccines are quite dangerous and incredibly non-effective? So if you're open to that, I have piles and piles and piles of books and information and research that you may not have read yet that clearly debunks everything that the government says about vaccines. It clearly shows that they're dangerous, and it clearly shows that they don't work, and it clearly shows that the diseases that vaccines were trying to eradicate and save us from smallpox and hepatitis and diphtheria and malaria and all that.
All you really need is air.
Are you open to it?
Well, are you open to it? Because the incidence of death had dropped by about 99%, and then the shots showed up, and they said, haha, we saved you, when it really was because they weren't drinking water.
That's a positive assertion. You're making claims. I'm not going to say that I can.
Well, I'm just a messenger. You can read the research if you want.
Am I open to it? I would say at this point I'm not, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because one of the greatest. No, I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you why. Because one of the greatest Austrian economists now living, whose name is Israel Kirzner, teaches a class based on a concept called rational ignorance. And we all have this thing called rational ignorance. Exactly, because I don't speak German. I don't speak fluent German. I'm rationally ignorant because I've chosen not to spend time wasting time learning German because it will not provide a marginal benefit for me. So will I go out and try and prove that vaccines cause autism when I've already done lots and lots of research? No, I won't be. I will remain rationally ignorant about those facts, sir, because I do believe that it is a waste of time for me to go out there. Are you angry? Are you extremely butthurt about this? And so I will, sir, remain rationally ignorant about those facts because I've already done my own research for for hours and hours. So it's not to say that I wouldn't necessarily believe it, but that I'm not going to spend any more time because I have to spend time working on projects of actual value, like auditing an annual Fed.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Austin. You're a really smart guy, and you start saying stuff about how you got your mind made up and you've read all the research. Hold on, listen to this. No, you think it is, because you're a smart guy, you're up in front of all these really smart people, and you start talking about shots, and we're all like, dude, you're wrong. The research proves that.
Are you all of the opinion?
Not all.
Hell no.
A lot of us.
Hell no. Raise your hand if you've gotten a vaccination.
Yeah.
Oh, so we all are vaccinated.
That's right.
Imagine how smart we all really would be.
Trouble keeping us back.
You know, I just want to give a little fact about polio.
Want to read it?
About the polio vaccine. So, in 2001, the CDC stopped administering the oral polio vaccine because the only instances of polio in the United States since 1973 were in fact caused by the vaccine. The rest of the world still gives the oral vaccine, most likely because since Americans aren't buying those anymore, they're shipping them off to other countries so they don't lose, profit on that. So the rest of the world still has polio because of the vaccine. The polio vaccine, if you look at the data, in 1953 is the top of the polio curve, and then it starts to come down. 1955 is when the vaccine was introduced. So, obviously the vaccine did not cure or end polio.
So we've reached the point where people can just get up in front of a mic and seriously assert that major viruses that affected humanity for eons were actually totally mythological. And that's fun.
No one's saying that no, we're just saying that sanitation and personal hygiene have more to do with, and nutrition have more to do with your immune system fighting off diseases that have always existed, and the millions of...
No, that's a very different claim from what you made a minute ago.
And the millions of diseases that we don't know about that are floating around.
You made a totally different claim just now.
No, I did not.
Yes, you did. You made a positive assertion.
I said that the polio vaccine was clearly
You said that
according
it
to the
doesn't
data.
cure polio.
I said it was not responsible for
Sir,
the...
you will be complicit if
Then
a
I
child
misspoke.
dies.
If I did not say that, I spoke.
You will be an inside job if a child dies because somebody was gullible and naive and they listened to you spouting your pseudoscientific.
Everybody was personally responsible.
And they're totally debunked. And if you do not get a vaccination for these diseases and your child dies,
Personal
then
responsibility.
you are complicit.
What are you, a socialist? Personal responsibility.
No. I'm not saying that. I would never forcefully inoculate someone. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you have to separate what we believe in our philosophy as to what we believe works in science. I would not be a Rick Perry Gardasil vaccinator by force. Okay? I would give you that choice.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, Almighty One, for giving us the choice. But you know that there are certain states in this country where you cannot go to college unless you have certain vaccinations.
Yeah, right.
You can't go to school.
Right.
So actually, you know what this is? Yeah, that's great.
That's fine.
Unvaccinated homeschooled kids for the win.
For the win.
Yeah, grow those viruses. Go ahead. Be a carrier of disease. Yeah, be the person that helps spread the next version of polio.
Okay.
Rubella.
All right, next question. And then are we cutting? We're cutting the line off, right? You're the last one. Who else wants to? Okay, who else?
Gigi's angry.
All right, we got two more.
Austin, you are
Gigi,
fun.
it should be Gigi deserves it. She's very angry with me. I love Gigi Bowman. I have a lot of love for Gigi Bowman. I respect her so much. I want her to come up and ask her.
And actually, I want to clarify something. I think for a lot of people here, I mean, I know it sounds like I'm coming out totally on the pro-conspiracy side. It's purely, I like to read and I like to ask questions. And I think that's what we should constantly do. You said a few minutes ago you do not have children yet. I know a lot of people who are in our community are now starting to have families. And I think it's something where we can't afford to have rational ignorance, which quite frankly is an oxymoron, because I don't know if you can rationally not ask questions.
You're supposed to be immoderate. You're not supposed to make a positive assertion like that as a debate moderator.
Oh, now I'm in trouble.
Rational ignorance is an Austrian economic concept introduced by Israel Kirzner. He teaches this as the foundation for economic education, which I would all highly recommend you to go to and learn about the principles of liberty and stop listening to Alex, stop listening to the lies and start learning about liberty, because liberty is true.
Well, Ron Paul goes on Alex Jones, so hey.
Yeah?
Good enough for
Ron
me.
Paul's a politician.
Ron Paul's an inside job.
Freedom work sucks.
All right, so
I got Coke money.
for a little bit of a takeaway for everybody here, I'd like to know what the end game is for both of you gentlemen. So you're both holding the Liberty banner, but one of you says, oh, well, while you're holding the Liberty banner, you should hold the conspiracy banner too and tell everyone the truth about these things. And then Austin is up there saying, no, that's probably not the best one. You should probably take the facts and rational, view of the subject. So what is the takeaway, and what is the pro of talking about this sort of stuff as a movement, and what is the pro of talking about other things?
The truth shall set you free. There's no divorce between the truth and liberty. It's as simple as that.
But what is the future?
Rand Paul can try and manipulate the GOP machine with his endorsement and trying to get this bill passed and that bill passed, but it's not going to make anybody free. It's not going to happen. It may slow down the grip of tyranny.
So then take the dark side, ladies and gentlemen.
But what is the karmic?
Can't win.
Wait.
No, wait. At 5 p.m. tonight, I will be giving a speech called The Politics of Winning, and I will teach you how to win, ladies, and I will give you a positive view of future. I will give you an optimistic view of liberty, and I will show you how to win. So if he thinks that you're going to lose, by all means, follow him off the cliff.
I said you...
Or follow me, and I will take you towards winning.
The state is not the solution. Rand Paul is not going to win by endorsing Romney. What is the karmic implication of violating your principles? So I have to tell the truth. I have to look into these things, and if I believe it, I could be wrong about a lot of things. Maybe 9/11 is completely the way the government said it. But I have to speak, I have to live according to my principles, and I can't violate them.
And, you know, let's just put everything in balance here.
You can violate them for marketing purposes.
We've
that's
been
fine.
here for, what, 6 days now? You know, we're probably going to spend 2 hours on this in the end. We have spent hundreds of other hours talking about liberty issues, talking about monarchism, talking about statism, talking about voluntarism. This is one really small aspect. This, to me, is like an indulgence. This is all of us just farting in the wind, quite frankly.
And listen, if you know me, you know that I'm not just about conspiracies, that I talk very much about being self-sufficient, about growing your own food, and trying to become independent of the state and what I call the statist economy, living off the grid, alternative currency, all that. So it's not a matter
Full support for that.
It's you got to live in the matrix and out of the matrix. If Rand Paul wants to go into the matrix and do his activism, that's fine. But that's not going to make Rand Paul free.
All right, so let's wrap this
One
last
thing
word.
about Rand Paul, ladies and gentlemen. Politicians bow to votes. We put one of the most powerful senators into the Senate. He owes us. He is our senator. And if you let him go, ladies and gentlemen, the neocons will take him. And they will gladly use them.
I'm sorry, I think they just took him, didn't they?
Oh, really? Then give up. Go. Run away.
Give up on the state. Yeah.
The game's over. But the game's not over, ladies and gentlemen. The fight for liberty can't be won in our lifetimes. And I'm telling you right now that if we do work throughout the system in some ways and without the system, we can take this institutional chaos down. We can take this whole institution down.
Keep voting. It will make you free.
And the Fed and the IRS, bring the troops home right now.
Yeah, you're gonna
shut
have
down all of the institutions of the state. Start over.
And if you
That's realistic. We're going to end the IRS.
Okay, Austin, with all due respect, you said follow you to freedom. I don't want to follow any damn body, and I don't think anybody in this fucking tent wants to follow anybody. We're all our own leaders. Okay. So with that said, I admittedly have not been here for the whole thing. But to bring a little humor into this, what is each of your opinion on Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster?
I've never researched it. I don't know. I can believe it. I can believe in Loch Ness.
I haven't compiled enough evidence to draw a conclusion.
He hasn't checked Wikipedia yet.
I haven't called my Fox sources yet. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Gigi, what happened?
Ask your question, Gigi. Go, Gigi. Come on, Gigi.
You're so angry you can't even do it. Listen, the Queen of New York Liberty must speak.
I shouldn't be up here because I'll cry. But you have never had a child and lost one because a doctor who you trust when you have children tells you that this will make your daughter feel better. And then your daughter kills herself, okay? Stuff like this happens to our kids can die because we put trust in our doctors, in our government. And I learned from this is how I got here, not to trust my fucking government. And my government and my doctors seem to be connected through money and big pharma. So don't tell me that you're not gonna open your mind and think about the future when you have children, because you will. Don't close yourself off, Austin, because one day you're gonna look at this banana your kid's eating and say, should I fucking trust that this banana is not gonna kill my child? We cannot put our trust in the state. And that's the bottom line. And I just want to tell you that you'll never be a leader with a chip on your shoulder and an attitude that makes people feel like shit, okay?
Maybe I don't want to be a leader.
Listen,
maybe all I care about is playing too.
Gigi loves me, but I'm as big an asshole to you, so.
Listen, follow me, don't follow me, ladies. Do as you please. But the reason that we believe these conspiracy theories is because we're $16 trillion in debt, and we're terrified. And so what happens is when a nation of sheep become terrified, they start bleeding and running over the cliffs. And I'm telling you right now, these conspiracy theories are growing up because we have such distrust of government, rightful distrust of government, that we start becoming paranoid. And we start pointing at ghosts and we say that this is real. But it's not real, ladies and gentlemen. And it's not that I would say that I would be totally not open to evidence. I'm simply saying that I have made my mind up on this because I've done my research on this. Rational ignorance. Take Austrian econ. Take the class. And I don't care about you. You think I got a chip on my shoulder? Well, you know what? Maybe some of you guys needed to have a little bitch slap, reality slap in the face. Ben Swan. Oh, are you mad? Are you mad that vaccines don't cause autism?
He's
Get
right.
over it.
He's right. We all should be challenged like this.
You should be challenged.
We should be constantly
You think I should just let you say it, like whatever you want to say if I think I don't agree with it, and then I have a chip on my shoulder because I disagree? If you've got a problem with me, challenge me.
No, we're done. All right.
I just want to make a
No. In any debate, name calling is not. I understand you're emotional, but fair enough. Ad hominem attacks are something we don't approve of. Did you find the quote? All right, I'm going to wrap this up by.
I just want to make a closing statement because I think that, and then you can wrap it up. I think that Austin makes a lot of good points. There is a lot of dogma in the truth movement, these theories that people hang on to, and yes, I know what happened, it was the reptilian Jews, fine. There is a lot of that, and people, but this is a subculture of the broader population, and the whole population does this, humanity does this. So yes, people grab onto dogma, that's true, and we do need to be constantly reevaluating that. And I would challenge the truth movement now to say, let's grow up a little bit. Let's stop using phrases like autism causes, vaccines cause autism, and I know it was an inside job.
Agreed.
And let's become a little bit more sophisticated about when we talk about it. We can't boil it down always to just a couple of catchphrases and sound bites. That's what the statists want us to do because then we can be easily marginalized.
Danny and I are in total agreement.
So let's talk about foreign policy and...
Right. Solomonsky and the socialists took over our government by using Fabian strategy. I'll let you say it, honey, but I just want to agree with Danny. I just want to have my rebuttal there. Danny is absolutely right. The socialists took over our government by cutting their hair, putting on suits and ties, and working from within. George Washington won the Revolutionary War by giving up New York and falling back to fight another day. Some battles we can win, some battles we can't win. And I'll tell you, I think there are some battles we can win.
Let me just say this really quick. We all need to learn from one another's experience. What people have experienced, people when they come from here, listen to that person. And it goes along with what you were saying about rational ignorance. So when someone knows, listen to them, because you can only learn from what you hear. It's got to come from here.
That's Hyde's conceit of knowledge.
Live in your body, not always in your head, and just come from here more. And listen to people that come from here.
She's speaking about Friedrich Hayek and his problem, the pretense of knowledge. And I would not commit the pretense of knowledge, guys, because I know you guys are way smarter combined than I am on my own. I will listen. I will, but I don't have to agree.
But you don't have to call me paranoid delusional.
Well, you don't have to call me a statist.
You are a statist.
All right. Name calling will end. I'm going to tell a joke, and then I'm going to read a quote, and then we're done. So my joke for the day is, what's the difference between a minarchist and an anarchist? 2 years. All right. Also, I would like to end, hold on, I want to end with this quote and then you guys can be all huggy-huggy. This is from Chris Hedges, and I saw this the other day on Facebook and it really moved me, and I think this is kind of where we are in the world right now. And it is, we live in a nation where doctors destroy health, lawyers destroy justice, universities destroy knowledge, government destroys something, everything. The press destroys information, religion destroys morals, and that one you guys can fight out, and our banks destroy the economy. Thank you for coming.
And Austin and I are friends, and this started out as a debate online, and we were actually accused of being an inside job, that this was all a setup. Because we know each other and we're friends, we weren't didn't want to kill each other.
Please don't stab.
And we're both autistic.